Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another programming lesson. So one thing I want you to think about is sometimes we want parts of our program or even the whole program to repeat itself a few times. Sometimes it might be forever. Sometimes it might be for a certain amount of times. Maybe if there's, let's say, 3 bottles on the floor and our robot's supposed to only run a certain section of code for 3 times to pick up all 3 bottles. So to go bam, 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 runs that code 3 times. Well, then it's kind of like, well, how do we do that? How do we actually code? What's the code for that? What's the layout in our program for that? So kind of like the question here, so how do I get a section of program to loop 3 times? Well, one thing that you have already learned is you have already learned how to make a program loop forever. And the way that we did that was doing while 1 equals 1. So we did a while statement. So it's going to loop what's going on while 1 equals 1. So anything that's within the braces for this, it's going to loop forever because 1 always equals to 1. So then it's kind of like, well, how do we actually then modify this so that it's only actually doing it 3 times? So in terms of the statement, instead of doing a forever loop, we're going to do a counted loop. So we're going to want the program to count, so how many times we go through the loop. So when we go through it once, okay, that's 1 time. Let's go through it again. Okay, that's another time. Let's go through it again. Okay, we've gone through it 3 times. So we want a variable to like keep track of how many times we're going through the loop. So it's like while the count of how many times we go through the loop is less than a number, let's say 3, let's do the stuff, like going to get the bottle or something like that. So let's kind of just look at a example, just using words, kind of rough example of pretending to eat grapes. So here is our program, eating 20 grapes. Just filling your face full of some nice tasty grapes. So here's just a kind of a rough example of what it might look like. So I'm declaring a variable, grapes eaten total. So that's a variable, and that's going to be an integer. So while this integer of grapes eaten total is less than 20, we're going to do this stuff. As soon as we're 20 or more, then we're going to do this stuff. So for example, while grapes eaten total is less than 20, let's do this. So let's eat 1 grape. We eat 1 grape. Now we add 1 to grapes eaten total. So we originally started out with 0 for this. We went here, we ate 1 grape, and then we did this. This is saying, hey, plus 1 to 0. So 0 plus 1 is now 1. So we're not ready to do this because 1. Okay, so now the computer's checking. 1. Is 1 less than 20? Yes, it is. So let's do this again. Let's eat 1 grape. Eat 1 grape. Now let's add another 1 to grapes eaten total. Grapes eaten total last time was 1. So now we have to add another 1 to 1. So 1 plus 1 is... So now we're at 2. Is 2 less than 20? 2 is less than 20, of course, so let's do this again. We eat 1 grape. So now we add 1 to that total. 2 plus 1, of course, is 3. And we keep going. Let's say we're at 19. While grapes eaten total is less than 20. So let's say grapes eaten total is 19. 19 is less than 20, so we eat 1 grape. We add 1 to 19. 1 plus 19 is 20. While 20 is less than 20. So now my question for you, is 20 less than 20? 20 is not less than 20. 20 is 20. 20 is equal to 20. So that means we exit this part of our program. Now we go to this part of the program. This part of the program says, hey, you are full, man. You got to stop eating grapes. You're not going to feel so good if you keep eating. So you stop right here. Program's done. So in general, that's just kind of a quick explanation of how a while counter loop works. Now, let's look more at what does this look like in our program, in Robot C. How do we actually code for this? We learned integers, variables and integers. We learned that before, so we know what those are now. So we're going to take a look at, we actually have to use those. So we're declaring an integer, and we're going to call it, let's just call it loop count. You can call it count, you can call it loop, whatever. Well, let's call it loop count for now so we know exactly what it is. We're going to say, hey, loop count, we're going to start you out at 0. Now, what we want to happen is, while our loop count is less than 3, we're going to do this stuff. So while the loop count is less than 3, the motor is going to turn on at a power 76, and it's going to do that for about 2 seconds. So while the loop count is less than 3, motor turn on power 76 for 2 seconds, and then it does that, and it's going to add 1 plus loop count. So now if we went through this one time, what would our value now be for loop count? So if we ran through this one time, 0 plus 1 is 1. So our loop count's now 1, 1 is less than 3, we run through it again, and we keep going until now all of a sudden we have 3. 3 is not less than 3, 3 is equal to 3, so this would not be true. So then what happens is then we exit, and then we go to here, this outside of our braces. So when we go outside of the brace, well, it's just the end of our program. So once we are at 3 or more, our program ends. So to sum up, this is basic, again, just a basic way of how you do just a basic loop count system. Is just adding on your integer. So add to your variable, and then you can and it could be, you could also do less than, you could do greater than, you can, there's a lot of these different symbols you can use, less than and equal to. So I just want you to see, just in terms of a basic loop count, that's how you do it.